History's Deadliest Snipers. Oh, my mug. If there was ever a true patriot that answered his country's call of duty, it would have to be this 5'3" snow cone of glee. This is Simo Häyhä. But don't let that smile fool you. It was the last thing hundreds of Soviet soldiers would see before being no-scoped out of life's lobby. If they ever even caught a glimpse of him, that is. Born as a Finnish farmer baby on a farm in Finland in 1905, Simo's childhood consisted mainly of helping out the daily farm chores like tilling soil, harvesting crops, petting a cow or two, and most notably, hunting game. A skill which he started to develop a real knack for. At age 17, Simo volunteered to join Finland's Civil Guard. During his volunteer work, the rather reclusive Simo stood out amongst his peers with his innate ability to handle a rifle. There's never a more iconic duo than reclusive children and firearms. Simo repeatedly outgunned his colleagues in tons of competitions, performing feats that would make you go, he's pretty good. One such feat was sniping a small target 6 times in a minute, 150 meters away, with a bolt-action rifle. For my American audience, it's like sniping a Happy Meal 6 times across 1.5 football fields in under a minute with no fancy scopes. This shit made the Finns go absolutely bonkers, but this would pale in comparison to what Simo would accomplish down the road. Fast forward to 1939. The Russian Empire, now identifying as the Soviet Union, decides to bomb themselves right on the Finnish-Soviet border. Why, you ask? To start a war, of course. The Winter War. The Soviets wanted some of that Finland, so with a few Reds dead, it was time for redemption. The Soviet Union framed Finland for the bombing, which, my dearest viewer, is called a false flag operation. Want to start a war but don't feel like being viewed as the instigator? Simply attack your own people and convince everyone that it was someone else. Problem solved. But the ill-prepared Soviets would soon regret their actions. See, Soviet Supreme Leader fella Joseph Stalin was a bit of a paranoid Peter. He had Control-Alt-Deleted almost all of his smartest and most competent military strategists and leaders during the Great Purge, just to make sure that they wouldn't try to figuratively, or literally, backstab him. The result? A completely incompetent Red Army showing up in the snowy white Finnish fields wearing dark brown uniforms. This meant that the enemy were easy pickings for old Slick Simo. So, clad in his iconic white camouflage and equipped with his trusty M28-30 Mosin Nagant and Suomi KP-31 submachine gun, Simo Häyhä would spend the next 98 days racking up 542 confirmed kills, earning the moniker the White Death. A name that evoked inspiration for the Finnish and terror for the Soviets. Quick side note, confirmed kills require another person to confirm them. Basically they're saying, yep, they killed that guy, I saw it happen. It's just a way to prevent egotistical snipers from claiming that they killed thousands when they were in fact just sitting there with their dicks in their hands. Anyway, Simo absolutely terrorized the Soviet forces. Having set up multiple vantage points in front of and behind enemy lines, he avoided major detection for months. Simo would enter a nest at dawn, packing down the snow and pouring water over it, giving it the proper nutrients to grow into big, strong ice. This not only stabilized his rifle, but prevented any kick-up when popping shots, which is usually a dead giveaway for a sniper's position. He even munched on snow to mask his own breath trails. When taking aim, Simo relied solely on his iron sights, not as a flex, but for tactical reasons. For one, he wasn't well trained in using scopes, so he stuck with what he knew best. He also knew that using a scope required you to raise your head ever so slightly to look into the scope properly. Those extra inches of dome exposure could mean life or death. Not to mention the fact that scopes fog up in the winter and also like to reflect sunlight, creating a glint off of the glass like a giant neon billboard saying, "Look over here, I'm a fucking sniper." It wasn't until March 6, 1940 that Simo would feel the searing hot pain of his own mortality hit him right in the face. Oh wait, that was an explosive bullet fired from a Soviet rifle. Those things were banned from warfare in 1868, by the Russians no less. The bullet had ripped through Simo's face and destroyed his left jaw, rendering him unconscious and, for a little while, presumed dead. He was later rescued and hospitalized, undergoing several reconstructive surgeries, eventually regaining consciousness on March 13th, the day that the Winter War ended. Unfortunately, Simo's farmland was lost to the Soviets after the war, but the Finnish government was all, "Nah, we got you, bro," and granted him new land to start over. And just as he was before the war, Simo happily resumed his life as a humble and reclusive farmer. He passed away peacefully at the age of 96 in 2002, 11 years after witnessing the collapse of the Soviet Union. Now that right there is an inspiring legacy. I mean, who could resist the chance to become an elite sniper like the White Death?
Certainly not me.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Beep. Sounds like you need to play Sniper Elite Resistance. That's right, the most complete tactical sniper franchise of all time is back and available on all these platforms. Oh, and this one too. Step right into the role of Harry Hawker, a highly skilled British operative fighting alongside the French resistance in action-packed single and co-op campaigns, just bursting at the seams with unparalleled sniping mechanics, stealth, and tactical third-person combat. Arm yourself with a whole sweaty arsenal of historically accurate weaponry as you take on the enemy. You're not helping. Sure I am. Let me show you my favorite feature. You know, since I couldn't go to medical school because of
crippling student debt,
I have to improvise, and thanks to the iconic X-ray kill cam feature, I can perform remote vasectomies with ease. Please, you're scaring me. Good. Use whatever skills you may or may not have to challenge other players in thrilling multiplayer battles. If you want to go the extra mile, check out Axis Invasion mode, where you become the enemy, hunting down poor innocent players in their own campaign. Someone please help me! I'll help you by providing a link in the pinned comment and description below so you can start playing today. Sniper Elite Resistance. Play it, or else. Now on the other side, the Soviet Union had their own fair share of deadly snipers. And by that, I mean most of the deadliest snipers in history hailed from the great communist regime. So either their sniper training programs were top-notch, or they had solid propaganda skills. Or both. I have to say, it seems like the harder it is to pronounce the name, the better of a sniper they were. But for the Soviet Union, we will focus on one Lyudmila Pavlichenko, also known as Lady Death. Born in the Russian Empire in 1916, Lyudmila began developing her sharpshooter skills as a wee lass while competing in various youth marksman contests. Unfortunately, shooting guns doesn't pay the bills. But building them does. While working at a local armaments factory, she felt she was a little bit underappreciated and underpaid, so she enrolled herself in university to become a historian. In her spare time though, she continued to develop her marksman skills by attending sniping school, courtesy of the Red Army. That's a good thing too, cause it's June 1941 and there's someone at the door. It's the Germans. They're invading. Now with all these krauts going sour, Lyudmila formally volunteered for service. Because of her sniping classes, she was assigned to the Red Army's 25th Rifle Division as one of 2,000 female snipers. Lyudmila was now ready to live up to her full potential as a respected Red Army soldier. Yeah, she ended up digging a lot of trenches. And thanks to several weapon shortages, Lyudmila wasn't even equipped with a gun. She was only given a single grenade as a weapon. It wasn't until one of her slightly injured comrades gave her his M1891 30 Mosin Nagant that she was even capable of doing any damage. Her first instance of drawing blood was picking off 2 Nazi officers over 1,300 feet away.
Hans, you've got to try this strudel. It's to die for. Oh my god, Franz, you are always so literal.
And she was just getting started. Over the next several months, she fought through the Siege of Odessa, found love, immediately lost it to a mortar shell, fought in the Siege of Sevastopol, trained other snipers, and received numerous promotions, racking up a final confirmed kill count of 309 soldiers, including 36 Axis snipers, although it is believed that her true kill count could be much higher. In 1942, Lyudmila took a page out of her late husband's book and was hit in the face by mortar shrapnel. She was quickly evacuated from battle and treated for her injuries, spending about a month in the hospital. Instead of returning to the front lines, however, she served as a propagandist for the Soviet Union, granting her the title of Lady Death. She toured the United States and Canada, telling stories of her combat experiences in hopes of inspiring the Allies to launch more aggressive campaigns against the Axis powers. But Japan already gave a wealth of inspiration to the United States in 1941. Lyudmila was actually the first Soviet citizen to be received by a US president. What sucks though is that her time in the US wasn't all that great thanks to the US media. Instead of asking important questions about her service and her experiences as a wartime soldier, The American media instead focused on dumbass unimportant questions about her appearance and her style of dress. Hey toots, killing hundreds of fascists is cool, but what's with the ugly skirt? Even after her propaganda trips, Lyudmila never returned to battle. She continued to serve as a sniping instructor for the Red Army until the end of World War II, after which she went back to university and fulfilled her dream of becoming a historian. She then died of a stroke in 1974 at the age of 58, and to this day, she is considered to be the deadliest female sniper in all of history. Let's take a skip across the pond to the Great White North where we find our next marksman. This is Francis Pegahmagabow, or as his future syllable-sensitive colleagues would call him, Peggy. Born with a tragic backstory of family loss, poverty, and disease, Pegahmagabow was destined for a great hero arc. Raised according to the cultural customs and traditions of the Ojibwe Native American tribe, Pegahmagabow was taught to hunt, fish, and be one with nature, growing into a healthy and disciplined young man, something that Canada would soon be in dire need of thanks to the efforts of a Serbian, a gun, and one dead Austro-Hungarian Archduke thousands of miles away. Great Britain had entered the fray of World War I in August of 1914, lumping Canada into the mix by default because, British territory. Since it is a war and all, Canada needs troops to lob onto the front lines. Well, guess who's at the front door to volunteer? That's right, Francis Pegahmagabow. Now, the Canadian government at the time preferred their soldiers to be a little whiter, but he'll do. And so, at just 23 years old, Pegahmagabow was a full-fledged maple syrup soldier. His first assignment was getting hucked over to Europe for basic training in England. Thanks to a pretty solid hunting level, he netted himself a job as both a scout and a sniper. His first taste of battle would be one of the most infamous of the Great War, the Second Battle of Ypres in April of 1915. This is about the time that the Germans started deploying chlorine gas as a way to flush out Allied soldiers. This was a dense, heavy gas that crept over the landscape and completely suffocated any soldier caught in its death cloud. Super effective in trench warfare, which is what World War I was all about. Equipped with his standard issue Canadian Ross rifle, a powerhouse in both range and accuracy but lacking in reliability, Pegahmagabow fought his way across the Western Front. After the Second Battle of Ypres, where he actually gained fame for his ability to successfully carry messages across the battlefield with zero regard for his own safety, Peggy found himself in the Battle of the Somme, one of the deadliest battles of the Great War. Despite getting capped in his leg, Peggy had continued success in delivering critical information across the Allied front. Bro was like an instant messenger. But his next moves, however, would cement Pegahmagabow in the history books for his selflessness and bravery. You see, he would often leave the safety of his battalion's trench into what is known as no man's land, the uninhabitable area between trenches just brimming with desolation and despair. Getting caught there meant certain death, as you'd be found in the crosshairs of an enemy rifle within seconds. That is, unless your name is Francis Pegahmagabow. This dude would just weave in and out of gunfire, loot the dead for some spare ammunition, and bring it back to his fellow soldiers so that they could continue fighting. Legend has it that he actually injured his back from the sheer weight of the ammunition and the absolute brass balls that he carried around. Not only would he brave no man's land for restocking missions, but for recon as well. He would be able to scope out enemy weapons posts, vantage points, and defensive structures. Now, unfortunately, there's not too many juicy stories explicitly about his sniping abilities, but throughout the various battles he fought through, Francis Pegahmagabow had accumulated 378 confirmed kills with an unreliable rifle, as well as being credited with capturing over 300 German soldiers. By the time the war was over, he achieved the rank of corporal and was awarded various medals for his service. He returned home as the most decorated indigenous soldier of the war and is renowned as the single most effective sniper of the Great War. One might say that the Germans took a pretty good pegging. But his service was not without consequence. Over the years, the old pegster racked up a fair amount of physical and psychological damage. Although a war hero overseas, he had returned to Canada to live in poverty and neglect as a native in the very country he fought for. And over the years, he would become an outspoken activist for native rights until his death in 1952 at the age of 61. In 2016, a bronze statue was commissioned and placed in his hometown of Parry Sound, forever immortalizing his noble military service. Just a stone's throw to the south, you have the absolute beacon of freedom that is the United States of America. I should know. I lived there. And so did our last sniper, U.S. Marine Corps Gunnery Sergeant Carlos Hathcock. Ever since tasting his first crayon, Hathcock knew he wanted to be a Marine. It also helped that his papa was a World War II veteran, bringing home spoils of war for his kid to play soldier with. In 1959, Hathcock had celebrated his 17th birthday, blew out his candles, and immediately enlisted in the Marine Corps. That's my boy! During basic training, Hathcock impressed many of his fellow soldiers on the shooting range. He had qualified as an expert-level marksman, setting records left and right, one being a .248 out of a possible .250 on a mastery range, a record that remained until the course was formally retired, so that very much still stands in my opinion. His continued sharpshooter skills earned him recognition as a Marine Corps Distinguished Marksman in 1965. But just a year later in 1966, Hathcock's skills would be put to the test as he began deployment in the Vietnam War. Throughout his 2 tours of Vietnam, he racked up an impressive 93 confirmed kills with his Winchester Model 70 rifle. Doesn't sound that impressive. You say from behind your computer or phone. But let me tell you why you're wrong. During the Vietnam War, in order for a kill to be considered confirmed and count towards any official kill count, each kill must have been verified by the sniper spotter as well as a third party, usually an officer. But since you can't just have 2 people sitting around all day waiting to confirm kills, most wouldn't be considered confirmed. So while Hathcock tallied 93 confirmed kills on paper, his real count is believed to be much greater, more than 300. Now, this sort of efficacy as a sniper gained him quite the reputation amongst the enemy. During his tours, Hathcock would find himself pitted against enemy snipers wishing to claim the bounty on the elusive white feather, a name befitting of the man who carried a white feather in his hat. Hey, it's better than Captain Sweaty Nips. What? It's hot out here. But Hathcock didn't just snipe with his Winchester rifle. For a while, he actually held the record for the longest documented kill at 2,500 yards, or just under 1.5 miles, with a scoped 50 caliber Browning machine gun. Hathcock's other claim to fame is when he took out an enemy sniper merely by noticing the glint of light from the enemy's scope. Remember when I told you that Simo Häyhä hated scopes? Tools can really be your downfall. After noticing the glimmer of light on the horizon, Hathcock took a shot at the enemy and hit his mark. What he would soon realize, though, was that he made an insanely lucky shot. When going to confirm the kill, the sniper was found to have been shot through the scope of his rifle and through his eye, a shot that Hollywood loves recreating in war movies. Cut! Remember Saving Private Ryan? Well, you better, because I'm not showing any clips. God, I love that movie. Tom Hanks, Matt Damon, Paul Giamatti for like 5 seconds. Instant classic. Anyway, Hathcock's career as a sniper would soon go out with a bang. While riding in an armored transport vehicle, his platoon actually ran over an anti-tank mine. Hathcock managed to escape, pulling 7 fellow Marines out of the fire with him. Thanks to that good old pump and adrenaline, Hathcock had no idea that he was suffering severe burns and was finally pulled away by someone else. He ultimately suffered burns to his face, arms, and legs. Day in and day out, he was in constant pain. But that didn't stop him from helping establish the Marine Corps Scout Sniper School. There, he dedicated nearly all of his time teaching new and upcoming snipers. Over the years, Hathcock's health declined and he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, the disease that would ultimately take his life in 1999 at the age of 56. So there you have it. War certainly is hell, but it can produce some serious badasses. Do you think you could outdo these soldiers? Well, prove it. Download Sniper Elite Resistance today and show the world what you're made of. Oh, and you can also check out these videos too. I'll see you over there.